I'm on. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming this evening to our Friday night speaker series. And tonight we have Dr. Kaitlyn Morse, who's a trained infectious disease specialist, among many other great things. And I'll let Kaitlyn talk a little bit about herself so folks can have more info on her background. And also, we're so glad that you can be here this evening to share some information that, as we spoke about earlier, it almost doesn't matter how many times we talk about particular subjects, because in science, things are changing all the time. So there's always more to understand and more information. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, Kaitlyn.
Thank you. I thought I would talk a little bit about who I am first, and then we talk about Bebop Labs and ticks, and then we can dive. I also started a vaccine company. I was gonna give a brief introduction about that after ticks, and then really I just want to open it up for discussion and questions. I think the primary focus will be about ticks, but because I'm an infectious disease specialist, we can really talk about anything of interest. I am Dr. Kaitlyn Morse. I have a PhD in infectious disease and immunology. For my training, I made a vaccine against anaplasmosis, which is a tick-borne pathogen. And then I've done several different postdocs leading to different inventions. I co-invented a laser adjuvant. That an adjuvant is something that enhances your immune response when you give a vaccine. And we did it with a laser light, and that was at Harvard. And then my long-lived passion has been to start my own company successfully. And my first one was Bebop Labs, a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. And I also have two more companies. I have Morse Innovations that creates biosensors. And I have right now, it's called Morse Innovations so that I can do other things like I might make a fertilizer, and it's just a catch-all. And then I have Vaccina, which is a vaccine company. So I will move on to Bebop Labs. Bebop Labs is got two sides to its mission. The first is to track impacts to health, and the second is to provide a collaborative lab space that could be used to share for the public. So we don't have a space. And so the second part of Bebop Labs isn't operational, but we do have a lot of research and development projects going on. And I get a bunch every day, and I keep a list. And one of them I'm working on right now is developing a laser to kill ticks, which is kind of fun. And because it's when, like, if you have a really ferocious cat and you don't want to take a tick off, the laser would help with that so that you can get it off without having to like tackle your cat and get scratched. Is one application, but it's also fun to kill ticks that way without having to touch it. Like if you don't like bugs, you don't have to touch it. So that's one research and development project that we are working that just started this year. And I think that's right up my alley to help with that. It's not my idea. I didn't think of it. It was somebody else's. And Kathy Reed, she's not in Waterville area, but that's her name, to give her credit. And so we track impacts to health, which means I started with ticks, and we can also do water, air, and soil. But Bebop Labs is 100% volunteer run, and we have the board of directors that we need to. We get volunteers all the time to help us, and we gather all the information so that we can answer questions about ticks and tick-borne diseases. And we're the only organization in New Hampshire that does that. And we have been since 2017. So it's a huge need. It's the state, I don't know what they're doing. They try, but they really don't do much. And so hopefully at some point we'll get recognized by our state agency that we're of need. But right now we just do it out of passion. And one of our big goals is to spread the information that we gather. So we try to make it in a present the data in a way that is easily digestible. So I can go more about how Bebop Labs works, but I wanted to start sharing my screen with a little bit of a funky place to start. So I'm just gonna share my screen here. This is the funky place to start is a map that takes forever to load on Bebop Labs website. So this is Bebop Labs website. You can get to it in two places, bebop-labs.com or beboplabs.org. I always go beboplabs.org because I don't have to remember much with that one. It's just we have landing pads and stuff that we're trying to optimize it. But anyway, so this is Waterville Valley here. And so this is an interactive map that we create with people that send ticks to us. And I like this interactive map. If you're going to go for a hike, you can easily go check your hike using this. It's a Google map, so you can save it on your phone and access it other than our website. It's saved on my phone as a map that I can access. And so you can check to see your hiking trail and see like, oh, what are these ticks? Are there going to be lots of ticks? We don't have a lot from Waterville Valley, so that's pretty good. And the ticks are, you can see there's different species, and we'll get into that too. But you can also click on a tick and it will tell you the species and when you found it and where it was founding and what it was doing. And then you can click on another one and it tells you this one's a different species. And then at a different, it was found in November. The other one was found that I clicked on was June, and that tells you something right there. There's two different species, two different seasons. But that map is really cool and a really great resource, and a lot of people use it. Looks like somebody found a dog tick on Mount Osceola. That's interesting. Okay, so another way that we try to show our data, and I am starting at a weird spot. I know this, I am going to go back a little bit, but this website takes forever to load because there's a lot of data on here. So I'm just going to kind of start on some information. So we also map the ticks using the counties and towns of the state of New Hampshire. So this is where the black-legged ticks are. And you can see from the colors, there's this color schematic, that there's about an even distribution throughout the entire state. There's a little white area, which means we've not seen any black-legged ticks from this area in Coos County. But that also means that maybe people aren't sending us ticks from that area, or they're not traveling in that area very frequently. So we don't necessarily know if ticks aren't there. We just don't get much from Coos County. And then we have the same map for the American dog tick, also called wood tick. And there's a hot spot for them in the Holderness, Meredith, Ashland area. That's because Bebop Labs used to be primarily in that area, and we were doing a lot of networking with people to give us ticks. And so this isn't necessarily a hot spot for ticks. It is, but it's also because we got more interaction and more participation with our citizen scientists who send us ticks. And so there's relatively an even distribution of dog ticks throughout the state too. And then to go into further, we also test the black-legged ticks for diseases. And you can see the map here is showing the disease distribution for Lyme disease, showing a little bit of higher prevalence towards the south of the state, and the similar distribution, but less percentage with babesiosis, Babesia microti, showing there's less infected ticks with babesiosis, but they're also more prevalent in the southern part of the state, same as anaplasmosis. And Borrelia miyamotoi, which is another pathogen that is common for ticks to carry in New Hampshire. And this is relatively, you can look at there, we've tested a bunch of ticks. A lot of them are 0% for Borrelia miyamotoi, but there are some hotspots like Bristol and Newington down there that are a little bit more prevalent for miyamotoi. So now that I've shown you where you can find the diseases and where you can find ticks in New Hampshire, I'm going to go back and talk about what Bebop Labs is. So let's just go to the homepage. Oh, so Bebop Labs is a nonprofit. There's a running banner here. We're trying to raise money so that we can provide free tick testing and get more ticks tested. So we sell tick tweezers, tick removal tweezers that are the best. And it talks more about our data. And then, but Bebop Labs is a 501c3. We trying to gather data about impacts to health. And for tick, we primarily focus on ticks. And the focus area for ticks is we work on awareness, prevention, surveillance, and diagnostics a little bit. The information that we gather about the diseases that I just talked about helps with the diagnosis because it lets the physicians know what diseases are possibly out there. Not necessarily that the information is diagnostic, that we're giving, Bebop Labs isn't giving diagnostic information, but we're giving information that can help a physician diagnose because you still have to get your blood tested. Okay, so let's go. There's our mission and vision. So I don't really have anything to say there. I can talk about our board of directors a little bit. So here I am, this is me. We have Sharon and Chris are on the marketing team. And then we've got Michael and Melissa and I are all like more on the sciencey team, and Erica, Laura, and Sarah more on the marketing, or not marketing, fundraising team. And then my mom and myself are more educational. I'm also a fundraising team, but I'm like everything. And then the Bebop Labs was named after Bebop the dog. So we also have a bunch of partners. That's interesting. We partner with New Hampshire Camps, and I just emailed them and they said that there's one individual who is trying to get the international record for how many ticks he finds on himself at once. And he found 19 on him today just by bending over to check on a plant. So that's exciting. He's doing a really great job at his tick checks. And we have a bunch of different universities that we collaborate with so that we can we're trying to correlate our data to climate change markers, which is like temperature, elevation, population, different things. So those are some questions that we are trying to answer as well, but we're not there yet. A Beekeepers Association works with us, which is really interesting because we're all about getting rid of bugs, and they are trying to raise bugs to make honey. But we work with them so that there's best practices so that you can remove ticks without hurting your bees or your pollinators. And then different agencies that really like our data, like Society for Protecting New Hampshire Forest, public health centers, the Squam Lakes Association, and the Science Center, and then Vet Hospital. Okay, so services, no, not this one. Where's our data? Oh, okay. So the tick project is about what I call citizen scientists. So people like yourself who send us ticks. And when you find a tick, if it's biting or crawling on you, on a dog, if you were hunting and you found it on your deer that you just got, or your turkey, which would be rare because turkeys love to eat lots and lots of ticks. You found a tick, then you write down when you found it, where you think you found the tick, the activity you were doing during the discovery of this tick, on if it was on you or your dog, and if it was biting or crawling, and then if it was biting, where was the tick biting, and if your age. So the whole idea is to get this information so we can learn about when you find a tick, where it's most likely to find a tick. Is there a demographic of individuals that are more likely to get a tick because of the activity they were doing, or their age, or because they're a pet owner, and it does help. We also don't know the species of ticks that are in New Hampshire. Classically, there's a group of like the state agency couldn't tell you if like what species are of ticks. And Bebop Labs answers that question because people send us ticks. And let's get into that and how to remove a tick that tells you how to remove a tick so you can safely do that. Pull it straight, don't twist it. And don't put any weird stuff on it like grease. But I want to go to, maybe this is, there it is. Okay, so I want to go to tick identification. So the different species of ticks that we primarily see are the black-legged tick and the dog tick. We also have the moose tick or the winter tick. The black-legged tick is the one that primarily contains disease, and the dog tick and the moose tick generally don't. We've collected thousands and thousands of dog ticks and tested them for disease in 3 years, and only 2 of them out of 3 years have come back positive for a disease. One of them was positive for anaplasmosis, and another one was positive for Francisella tularemia. There is other ticks that we get a lot, which are not on here. We also get the woodchuck tick, which is Ixodes cochii, and we get the Lone Star tick, which is one that we really don't want to see in the state. But we do have a few of those that come our way. The other ones we're looking out for are the American longhorn tick. Haven't seen that yet. That's another one that doesn't generally carry disease, but it has a little bit of different things about it that we don't like how it reproduces, how it has eyes and no other tick has eyes. That's like scary. Yeah, so that's fun fact. So fun fact, ticks don't have eyes. And another fun fact is they breathe out of their legs. So if you really hate ticks, you want them to suffocate and die, you rip off their legs. And okay, so black-legged ticks are the ones you have to watch out for. Let's pay attention to what these guys look like. So the female is red and has a black dorsal shield. So if you find one on your dog that has been engorged, if it has a black dorsal shield, it's most likely a black-legged tick. The males tend to be smaller than the females, and this is their actual size if you look at a pencil tip. The males tend to be smaller and they're brown, indistinct. And the males in general, with all ticks, males like to bite less than females. They're more of the crawlers. They don't need as much blood as the females do. And then if you compare that to the dog ticks are bigger and they have white on it. So if you see white on a tick, it's not something that you really have to worry about because the dog ticks or any of the ticks that have white on them don't carry disease. And if the dog tick gets engorged on your dog, it will have a white dorsal shield show up, and that's how you tell the difference between them. So now I want to move to, well, let's do prevention methods. Their body and all the places that are warm. So like your groin area would be, and then the back of your head is very common. And then for the dogs, it's very similar. Armpits, they like that area, the groin. I like this graphic for telling you how to prevent ticks. Or to find them, because tick checks are one of the best ways to prevent tick-borne diseases. It's just daily tick checks. So in order for you to find ticks on yourself better, wearing long sleeve clothes that are also white or light in color, protecting your feet, and tying your hair back are all ways that you can perform a tick check better. But the ways to prevent them from even getting on you would be to spray your clothes with a 0.05% permethrin spray. And I usually spray my shoes heavily. If you can wear gaiters, you spray that and the bottom of your clothes. Permethrin is one of those pesticides that does not stick to your skin. It only sticks to the fabric of clothing and fibers. So it doesn't work if you spray your skin. You would want to spray yourself with DEET or something to spray your skin if you're not wearing long clothes. But recommended at least is to wear long clothes, especially if you're going to walk through the middle of the trail or like walking in the vegetation. You want to, if you're going to walk into the woods and go off trail, then you want to have a longer pair of clothes on and tucking your shirt into pants and tucking your socks into your boots. Tucking those clothes in to make sure that no skin is exposed is also very helpful. Ticks, they like leaf litter, so they reproduce in leaf litter. So the area that's in between a trail or in the woods or a buffer zone between the woods and the field are generally where there's going to be more ticks because they are reproducing inside the leaf litter. And then another great graphic is how to prevent ticks within your own backyard. Keeping your lawn mowed, keeping your leaves raked into a pile so you know where they are, and you keeping your wood in pile as well as stone walls, you know where they are. And then I like to put tick tubes right in areas like the wood pile, your stone walls, and around a pile of leaves or your compost pile or something that would have lots of rodents, because the tick tubes are targeting your rodents and then killing the ticks off of the rodents. Wood chips that also prevent ticks into your yard are, the best one is cedar, but also pine. They have these oils that will rub, that are a pesticide. So they'll kill anything that crawls in it. And that is not we don't advocate for spraying your yard because that's an aerosol and it can kill your pollinators. So I advocate more for using wood chips because it keeps it on the ground, and tick tubes also keep that pesticide contained. Ferns are a natural pesticide. They kill mosquitoes and other ticks too. So leaving your ferns, which are these like little graphic here, in your yard is also a really great way to get rid of bugs. And then, so let's look at the data. We already did the map. So this will be my last thing about ticks. And then I'll talk a little bit about Vaccina and then we'll go to questions. So some of the data is that overall numbers of how many ticks we've collected. I haven't compiled this all yet. This is only 2019, which is a normal typical year. 2020, we did get a little less ticks because of the pandemic, but we did still get some, and we got enough for data. I think it was over 1,000, I think 1,500. In 2019, we collected over 5,000 ticks. And then in 2018, we collected around 1,000 ticks. And I also think that dog ticks they peak every other year. So right now we're in a heavy dog tick season. And in 2019, we're in a heavy dog tick season. So next year, I predict dog ticks will be down, but I want to see what happens. The time of year that you find dog ticks are shown on this graph, which is in red for 2019 and in blue for 2018. And in general, they peak around June, May or June. We're seeing the peak earlier this year, or maybe it's going to even be worse in June. We don't know yet, but it's crazy how many numbers we're getting right now. For blacklegged ticks, which is yellow and green on this graph, we see two peaks in May and then October. And then you can see that again, these are now totaled from both years. It's really interesting to see that the blacklegged ticks have two peaks, and there's really only one season for the dog ticks, and they're different. So blacklegged ticks are earlier, and we did see that this year too. Then we've also graphed the infections that we see and co-infections on this graph. And this is correlating to when you see a blacklegged tick, two peaks again. as well as these are all the different diseases. We see 2 peaks for in generally Borrelia and Lyme, which is in red and yellow. So Borrelia burgdorferi is Lyme, and Borrelia miyamotoi is miyamotoi. So Borrelia is a genus that can cover as many as 27 different pathogens. We really only look for Lyme and miyamotoi because the others may not infect humans. It may affect your pets, but it also just may not be in New Hampshire. So the Babesia actually is very surprising, where we kind of see 2 peaks, but there's not enough data to tell. But we're also seeing it really early on in the year. And I think that's also because the data is not presented giving you all the information, where we think we only had 3 ticks that were tested in January, and all 3 of them were relatively positive. So, or 3 out of 6 or something, they get the 30%, 34% that's positive in January. So I think there's a low end for number of ticks that we gathered in January, but they're a lot high for Babesia, which makes it look funny. So I need to show a better way of giving my N number, and I'm working on that. Now that I have 3 years of data, I can really dig into this to show how I'm presenting it, so we can make sure it's as transparent as possible. We also graph the activities, and what we find for biting ticks is that the more likely to get biting ticks when you're doing gardening or yard work, which means ticks like it when you're sitting still at one location. And you're more likely to find a crawling tick when you are walking or hiking. But those are probably the 2 highest risk activities, is walking or hiking and gardening or yard work. And sports are kind of grouped, like these are grouped really funny. Like sports had some weird ones in, like dancing and playing soccer were all together. And I think I had a whole bunch of them, and there's a long list, but I didn't put that information on the website. I'm also trying to figure out if we see more black-legged ticks higher in the north than we do in the south. And this is my way of trying to present that, where I did a ratio of black-legged ticks to dog ticks, and then I did it by county. And this, if you know your counties in New Hampshire, this would indicate that there are more black-legged ticks in the southern part of the state than there are in the northern part of the state. But it's not necessarily the best way to show that information. And I like to end on this. There's a bunch of data here on the bottom, but I'm going to end on this table here about ticks, because there's a lot to digest. But if you learn 2 things from this talk, you'll learn 1, how to identify the different species of ticks. What do they look like? The black-legged tick is red, and the dog ticks have white on them. So you learn 1, that identification. 2, then you know that black-legged ticks primarily contain disease. So what's the percentage of the black-legged ticks that contain disease? That's the second thing that I want you to know. And it's about 40% for Lyme. For both years, in 2018, 2019, we have these tables, and you can go into your county to dive into that even further to see the different percentages of the disease. But I in general remember that 40%. I know Babesia and miyamotoi are less than 10. It's generally like 7%. Babesia and anaplasmosis, and then miyamotoi is like 1.5%, 2%. But for Lyme, which is the big one, is about 40%. So if you find 100 ticks on you, only 40 of them are going to contain a disease. Those are the 2 most important things. If I switch, I don't know if I can switch my tabs. I got to stop sharing, and then I can switch my tab, and then I'll reshare, I think. So that was my spiel about ticks and tick-borne diseases. Hopefully you all have questions about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Vaccina, and then maybe that'll stimulate questions about vaccines or treatment of infectious disease. But we'll see where the conversation goes. So I co-creating this company called Vaccina, which is producing green vaccines and therapeutics against global health challenges. We produce vaccines in plants. And it's green because one of our visions is to create a carbon neutral or carbon negative method to manufacture vaccines and get them to the most needy population that is at the highest risk. So our vaccines use an innovative platform that's easily modifiable and can be tailored to any disease. We manufacture them in or express the proteins in plants, which keeps the cost very low and without animal pathogen contamination, because most vaccines are expressed in E. coli or yeast or even insect cells, which can have their own problem because all of those have diseases that cross over into humans, but plants don't. And I am working with a different people out of Arizona State University. We kind of just started working together to do that. So, and we've got a bunch of different mentors. Our website really doesn't have much because it's very early stage. I started in September of last year. And it's been the vaccines that we've made. We do have a couple of patents, and we have tested the platform against HIV, HPV, Zika, norovirus, dengue, influenza, tuberculosis, and more. I might be forgetting some. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Please feel free to open the discussion. Any questions?
Thank you so much. That was great. My daughter and I are at the screen looking at all that information as you were sharing it. So there is so much out there, and I love that Bebop Labs is doing that. And I think it was last year, early. I don't remember when it was, when we were able to send you a message and say, "Hey, I just found this tick embedded. What should we do?" And we sent it off to the place that you recommended, and it came back within a couple days, and it was positive for Lyme, and it was interesting to see. It was actually on my daughter what the protocols were for treating. So that was pretty interesting to see, and knowing that it's probably on your data in there somewhere. I have a bunch of questions. I'll open it up to other folks since it's a nice small group here.
I have a question.
Yourself. Yes, have at it, Tina.
What is the status of the Lyme disease vaccine?
What is the
What? Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. What is the status of the Lyme disease vaccine?
So as far as I know, the Lyme disease vaccine is in higher clinical trial stages in Europe than it is in America. I think it's in phase 2 clinical trials in Europe. So once they get into phase 3 in Europe, like, it's going to be super easy for the Americas to adopt that.
And how long would you think that would take?
Ever since COVID and now the COVID vaccines, all the clinical trial stuff is accelerated. So it's kind of a new area for speed and timing. And I don't really know how. It could be expedited because we've seen that. And I think that's the new normal.
Is the Lyme disease vaccine using the same RNA method that
No. Nope. So the RNA method is more useful for viruses, and Lyme disease, Borrelia burgdorferi, is a bacteria, so a spirochete, and that's not going to be useful. mRNA is not going to be useful for that.
Okay.
But they do have a Lyme disease vaccination for animals.
Right. So that's the funny thing, is the USDA is a little bit easier to go through for vaccine approval, and you can show that your vaccine's safe enough where you can start your clinical trials in pets, even though you haven't really figured out your dose or or if it's really going to work to protect it. against the disease. But you can start in dogs and get your results. And but anyway, it is very effective. The Lyme disease vaccine for dogs is effective. You do have to get boosters. My dog gets it, and I also do I call it the tick juice that you put on their back, which is permethrin based, but they also have a pill that you can take that helps with the heartworm too, which are mosquito borne. I also have done that. We have a new puppy, so she kind of got those pills for free. And then Millie's only 6 months. So we got those pills, and then I still did the juice that I'm normally used to, the Frontline that you put on their back.
Yeah.
And so she's got it in all areas. And we do daily tick checks. I actually taught her a trick, and it's called tick check. And she rolls over on her back and goes belly up, and I do a whole tick check. And she's a golden retriever, so she loves it.
Yeah, of course.
That's great. I know there'll be a lot of questions. I want to take just another moment with that. So when we're collecting ticks, we have animals that are great magnets as we go through meadows. When you send in a tick, do you like them living, or does it matter if they're intact? Usually we'll tear them apart.
So I do like to be able to identify the species of the tick. So if it's torn apart, it's really hard for me to do the species. It doesn't have to be live. The DNA is very robust of the pathogens that we're trying to check. I don't normally test dog ticks for disease. I do try to prioritize biting blacklegged ticks, but we do test the crawling ones too, just to get enough data for the disease areas that we'll find in New Hampshire, the distribution. And we don't use that same partner of the testing lab anymore. She turns out to be not as reliable as I was hoping for. And so we are now partnering with Tick Report based out of Amherst, Mass. They're not out of UMass Amherst anymore. They're now their own entity, which is a little bit better. So Tick Report is where we partner for our tick testing because we don't have a facility yet. So if you're worried about a biting tick, we say don't send it to us because we don't have a guaranteed time on how long it takes us. We are all volunteers, and we try to test the ticks for free. So we usually do the tick testing in bulk towards the end of the season. And then we will give you results back, and it just will take us a while. So sometimes people tape the tick to the little questionnaire that they can print out on our website. That's fine as long as they do it so that their back is up so that we can tell what species it is. Or you can put it in a Ziploc bag. I don't like things in with the tick. Like, I don't really care if I don't like it when there's a paper towel or alcohol swab or something, because it makes it harder for me to find how many ticks are there. And sometimes I have to take that out, and I don't really want to have to do that. Especially if we're going to test them, because every tick gets an identification number when it comes to our door. Or in our mailbox, and every tick gets an identification number, the species gets identified, and then the ones that we're going to test, I have to transfer into testing tubes for the lab, which are like these tiny little tubes, and I move them over and I put the identification number on. So it's a lot of labor and hours going into and care for every tick that comes to our mailbox. It's a weird thing to care about, but because no one else does in the state of New Hampshire, I've taken that on to myself for everyone else. And it turns out that Bebop Labs has the most robust database worldwide than any other organization. I know that because I've gotten people from the Netherlands trying to copy us. I have partners in Spain who want our data, and I have different state agencies who've copied our program: Rhode Island, Vermont, and Michigan. And we are doing it for free, volunteer, on our own time. These state organizations won't do it unless they have like at least $60,000, which, you know how much I could do with that? That'd be crazy. Look at how much I've did with how much I've done. So anyway, I'm really proud of what we've done, and it's a compliment when a state agency copies us.
Yeah, for sure. Since I'm still unmuted, I'll ask another question. You mentioned tick tubes for your yard, and what I think I understand conceptually what that was, but I've never heard of them or seen them. Is it something that you make on your own?
Yeah, so I really need to add that to our website. We have a tutorial on how to make it. I've been doing the shout out for Pemmy Baker Beekeepers Association because they have a great tutorial on their website, how to make a tick tube. Do not buy a tick tube. It's way too pricey. Make it yourself. And here's how to do it. Collect toilet paper rolls or paper towels rolls, tubes like that. And then you take cotton balls or dryer lint. Some people use the stuffing out of a stuffed toy that their dog chewed up, or a pillow. I don't generally like that because it's synthetic, and we're going to be putting this into the wild, and I want it to decompose naturally. So I like the cotton or the dryer lint if I was organized, and I would probably use dryer lint, but I just use the cotton balls because I'm not that organized with the dryer lint. But then you take, I buy permethrin concentrated from Amazon. You can get it like 38%, which is crazy, and that'll last you your whole life. Because the concentration you use to spray your clothes is 0.05%. The concentration that I use to spray on the cotton balls that go into your toilet paper rolls are 7.5%. That is the exact concentration that you would get if you were to buy a tick tube. So if you forget that number, you can always go online and say, I'm going to buy a tick tube, and look at their fine print, and it says 7.5% permethrin. And same with the spray. Like if you forgot what concentration you use to spray your boots, you go to look to buy your like Sawyer permethrin spray, and it says 0.05%. And you're going to dilute that yourself with water. And then you spray your cotton balls with the permethrin, and you shove those in the tubes, and then you put those tubes in a place where you'd find a rodent, like your stone wall or like your foundation around your house, the wood piles. And I have that. It's on our Facebook page, but not on our website. So I need to put it on there.
And so the way that works is the animal's taken back to their burrows, and it kills off the ticks. Is that what it is, or it's that they just go through it?
The idea is that they take the cotton balls and they build their nest with it, and they rub all over that, and that kills the ticks that are on them, which thus makes it so there's less ticks that are going to find you, because the ticks are breeding in the litter and laying up to 3 million eggs, and all of those little larvae need a blood meal, and then they get the Lyme disease from the rodent. Then once they morph into an adult or a nymph and they find the human, that's how they transmit the disease. They're not born, the ticks are not born with a disease, but they get it from feeding on a rodent. So if you kill them at the site of a rodent, then you're going to stop the spread of disease. You're going to stop the tick population from going crazy. And it's going to help a lot better. Okay. I also think that another fun way to mitigate tick population is to send them to Bebop Labs, and we'll collect them here. And you're like getting rid of the population around you that way too.
Well, we were talking about that.
Another question.
20 a day.
Oh, am I? Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Another question. Is there any kind of biological that you could spray that would get rid of that would kill ticks?
I really don't like to advocate for spraying things because I don't want to kill bees or butterflies.
Oh, right. But could there be anything biological targeted towards the tick reproductive system? So
here's the truth. Yes. And there's also, my favorite thing is called MET52. It's a mycorrhizae. It's a mushroom that does not kill bees or pollinators, but specifically hates and kills ticks.
Oh, good.
I don't even think that's on the market yet. That is just something that a weirdo scientist like me knows.
Was that the thing that you were talking about the last time you presented to us for the moose populations?
Yes. And they are using that now. There's a really cool study that is studying using that MET52 mushroom to help with the moose population. And I have a link to that.
The moose have to come to a place where they get an injection.
I'm not sure how the study was doing, but if Bebop Labs were to do it, we would bring the MET52 mushroom to the moose via drones.
So the moose has to eat the mushroom?
No, you just have to it's like a pesticide. It's kind of like permethrin.
Okay.
So you just dust them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You pulverize the mushroom and dust it.
And then you rub it.
There's a new approved pesticide that I met the guy who made it. He's in New Hampshire. They just approved a grapefruit extract that is a really good way to kill ticks too. But it's a new one, so like all pesticides and even the natural ones, you have to worry about your bees. So
Right.
things like garlic, lemon, eucalyptus, and pine that you spray, or cedarwood oil that you spray, are all things that would kill a tick that are natural, but also can suffocate bees, and they die via suffocation, which would be really sad.
Okay, and I have one more related question. Does any of your research or any of this research carry over to black flies?
So sort of. Mosquitoes are in generally more the population that it would carry over to, because mosquitoes also carry disease like West Nile.
Sure.
I don't know of many diseases that are carried by black flies. I'm not really an entomologist, so it's tricky.
Yeah, black flies are just a pain in the
Yeah,
ass.
black flies don't kill you. They're just a real pain.
A really fun way to trap black flies, like if you have one of those cool bug zappers that
Yes.
well, you can take a bottle of water and sugar and put yeast in it, and that will give off the carbon dioxide that will attract the black flies to your bug zapper, and you'll get more deaths that way.
Oh, good.
A similar concept for tracking ticks. Like if you want to track ticks, you can just get a carbon dioxide producer. Like some people use dry ice if they are readily available, but this yeast method lasts longer, and it's way cheaper and easily more readily available than dry ice. And you can put that out to attract ticks too. That'll crawl in and then like die via swimming because they can't get out of the bottle. We use like an old soda bottle, like a plastic one, and we poke holes all around it, and then also in the cap, and that with the yeast, sugar, water mixture, and we put it right next to our bug zapper, and we have to clean that thing regularly. My husband takes pride in it.
Oh, I don't
You
blame him.
should.
You should. Kill those
great.
suckers, honest to God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun. It's fun how interesting it is to try and figure out and make sense of how we manage things and what we can sort out. I know I have a ton of questions. I'm ready to write you an email instead of taking this forum, so I'm gonna do that. If there are any other questions, now is a good time. And otherwise,
I did get a personal one, like directed towards me in the chat, that is maybe others are interested in, is what tick is all black, and is there problems with it? And my answer is, well, that is the male black-legged tick, and I don't really answer the problems thing, so let me answer that now. The problem is with the male black-legged tick is, yes, male black-legged ticks can also carry disease. I haven't quite figured out the differences between the male versus the female and what the percentages are. Thank you for reminding me to do that. And that other part of that is males tend to not bite as want as much of a blood meal as the females, but that doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to bite you at all. They can be biting. And I think so in general they crawl more, but so I guess that answers the question about problems.
And I guess another identification issue. So the male dog tick looks a lot like the winter tick. You know, if we're pulling those off of our animals or ourselves, I've been assuming that it's a male dog tick, but chances are it could also be a winter tick. It sounds like that wasn't really.
That's a really good assumption that you're making. You're most likely correct that it's a dog tick. The winter ticks, in general, we don't see adults at all looking at humans. They generally do only like the moose, and or if you're hunting, you might find them on your deer. Yeah, maybe a horse, but probably not, especially during the summer. You really will only see them in the dead of winter. And this year, I asked this question to somebody who is an entomologist just on Thursday this week, because we've been getting a lot of weird looking dermacenter ticks, and I didn't know what they were, but they're actually male dermacenter variabilis, the dog ticks. Because he said that the moose ticks are not at that stage, and there's a lot of variation in size and color with the dermacenter variabilis, more variation than Ixodes genius. So, and in New Hampshire and in Maine, you primarily will see the dog ticks and less likely to find a winter tick unless you're really looking for them in a moose bed or something like that.
Okay. Thanks. Well, this is great. And I really appreciate you coming on and being such a great resource for the state and for being available to us here. And please do keep us posted. I'd love to hear more about the vaccine development, and we've got a lot of great things in the works. So thanks so much for taking time this evening. And this presentation will be posted on our website probably by tomorrow. So for those of you here tonight, feel free to share. And Kaitlyn, it's a resource for you too. I know that you do present periodically around to folks, so if you want to have this info already available, it's there, and I'll share that link as well. So thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Morse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you all in the next round. Our next presentation, we have two coming up in June. One will be Birds of Waterville Valley, and the other is Tyler Durham of the Waterville Valley Recreation Department talking about bike packing and touring. So some fun ones. Yeah, excellent. So thank you again so much, and have a good evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.